Very nice.
Over to you.
Thank you. Okay, so hello everyone. Good evening. Welcome to every one of you who've joined us tonight. My name is Wade. I am the community liaison officer who works with the Trinidad and Tobago Trans Coalition. So I have Brandy with her community outreach, and I'm having her to do a number of work on a number of projects related to the work that she does. So just for our listening public to share some additional information, while Brandy's organization is called the Trinidad and Tobago Trans Coalition, the scope of her work goes beyond just supporting transgender people. Her support extends to people who are non-binary, and a large part of the work that Brandy does also includes providing critical support to sex workers in Trinidad and Tobago. So tonight, that is what our discussion is going to be around. We're going to engage in that, and the topic tonight we're going to engage in would be sex work and also legislation. So for those of you, once again, in the listening public, um, who would, to give clarity of what we mean by sex work would be persons who engage in sexual activity for the exchange of money. Okay? Now, when we say sex work, we have to be very clear about this too as well. Sex workers are people who give consent, not people who are forced to have sex by other adults. So now, some of the things that we're going to discuss tonight might be a little bit contentious. You may or may not agree with the positions that people have, but we would like to ask all of us to respect each other's opinions, and let's create this sort of forum where we try to understand what people have to say. And of course, in respecting each other's opinions, it does not mean that we're asking you to be forced to agree with what you're hearing tonight, but also to be open-minded about what you hear. So we want this to also be a learning experience. And some of the things that you might hear might be a little bit disturbing. It might be new to you, and then for some of you, this might not be new, but it might reinforce what you already know. So, and as Sharon reminded that in the case of sex work, some sex workers also engage in sex for the exchange of gifts, goods, and other services. So, as we say in Trinidad and Tobago, cash and kind. Right. So tonight, Brandy is on with us, and we have some special guests. Ayana, you see here. Hello, Ayana. Would you like to introduce yourself to the team, to the people on the panel, and to our public viewers?
Ayana, you have to unmute your mic. Your mic is muted. You have to unmute your mic, Ayana.
Ayana, are you able to? So, okay, so while Ayana is getting herself sorted, Malika, would you like to? Okay, here she is. Hi. Hi. Hi, Ayana. So, would you like to introduce yourself to us tonight? I love that rap.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, Ayana, Ayana Cardon is not originally my name. That's my father's name. But I put it for not having problems with my mom or my sister or anybody. No, honestly, this group is an eye opener for me. It makes me aware of what really is going on in the country, and not just in the country, worldwide, against how people stigmatize against different races, different genders, and I find honestly it's kind of unfair. One, I must say that one time. I find it unfair because everybody has their freedom of choice. Um, now, Brandy and I talked something. Yes, I told Brandy something. Yes, no, today. And she told me she wanted me to speak. I have no problem with speaking about it because it's nothing to be ashamed about. Uh, Now, because that way of life I went into is because of being raped, sexually raped on 4 different occasions. And it literally puts your mindset in a different, what is it? In a different frame to see, okay, I don't want to call myself damaged because I'm not, but at the end of the day, a lot of people when they look at you and they know your past experience and what you've been through in life, they look at you as damaged from my experience. And
There. Huh?
Please go ahead, Ayana.
they will consider you damaged or something is wrong with you or you look crazy. In my case, I did not look for what I went through. I was young and it was due to people who were way older than me that took advantage of the situation. Now, honestly, the first time it happened, I was 13 years of age, being raped by my mom's best friend. And when it happened, it literally kind of put my mindset at different, you know, nobody loves me, nobody cares, that type of way of thinking. And then it happened again and then again and then again. I started to say, okay, this is overdoing it. This is something that, okay, what, am I a sex subject? Do you look at me as sex? To be constantly putting me through this kind of, well, I would consider it embarrassment because people on the outside looking in who don't really know what is the situation will watch it as a shameful something. But instead I come together and help this person through the situation, they decide they want to talk ill stuff and, you know, make fun of them, which is not the right thing to do. Because each one needs somebody at some point in time. And honestly, due to my family, I must say thanks. My mom and my sister tried their best to help me through it, but it didn't help. It didn't make nothing better. It didn't make anything go away. So I ended up into that kind of life because after a while I started to look at myself as that's the only thing I'm good for, unfortunately. So honestly, in a short story, that's how I end up in that kind of lifestyle.
Okay, thank you, Ayana. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's very brave of people like you to actually talk about um, your life and your experiences. So we really appreciate that. So how about we go to...
Well, actually, I'm not a. Thank you for listening because honestly, I wanted to do this pretty long, so I speak out instead of holding it in. Everybody needs to let the voice be heard. So I
Yes.
appreciate you guys giving me this opportunity to speak out and let my voice be heard because I honestly don't want this to happen to anybody else younger than me or anybody else on the home to be going through what I went through in life. It's painful, it's shameful, and at the end of the day, everybody had to be their brother's keeper. So thank you once again.
Yes,
Follow.
absolutely. And we would really like to later on this evening, we would welcome any sort of recommendations that you have or any thoughts you have on how, as a community, we can support each other. Because sometimes we ourselves have these little biases that we are unaware of and we say things that could be hurtful to people. So we will welcome it and we will, when we get to that part of our discussion tonight, please feel free to interrupt us anytime and share. Or if you hear in the dialogue something that does not sound right, please let us know because that's the only way we will learn. if we are corrected during our discussion. So thank you so much, Ayana. Malika, hello, how are you? Are you there? Hello, hello, Malika. Rudy, do you think you could probably help Malika by maybe unmuting her mic? I'll send her
Sure,
a
I
note.
just unmuted. It should unmute
Yeah,
shortly.
okay.
Right, there she goes.
Hi, Malika, how are you?
Hello. Hi, good night. Hello. Good night.
Hi,
Good night.
welcome. Good night.
Good night. Well, I am just here to share my experience
Yes.
in the line of sex work.
Mhm.
I started in my 20s as a single mother with no help. And when you ask somebody for something as a family member or close friend, reproaching or embarrassing you. So I set my mind to make money on my own the way I know how. Few
Right.
times you pass through, when you're out there, you pass through people that are very dangerous. Sometimes you're out there, you go with somebody. When they're coming back, they try to take back the money. You have to open the door, jump out of the car. I am a type of person, I do not allow people to, like if they're trying to harm me, I would try to protect myself. So sometimes the car driving, you have to jump out the vehicle while it's moving. Other times,
Right.
you're getting arrested out there. Sometimes your child home, you're studying your child home and you're in the cell for 3 days. The only how they won't arrest you is if you do sexual favors to them. And I not into that. I not into no sexual favors to the police. So a lot of time getting arrested out there, having to stay in the cell. Sometimes you're concerned about what's going on with your child. Sometimes you tell them to contact family members. They lie to you and tell you to contact family members. They didn't contact family members. A lot of different things. A lot of things the police do out there. And when they arrest you, if you don't fall into like doing what they ask you to do, you end up in problems. That is part of the bad things that I pass through there. Sometimes the men pay you, they take back the money. Or they put gun to your head. All these different things we pass through out there as sex workers.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, sometimes men come to you, they want you to bring little girl for them. So I ain't nothing to bring in no little girl. I will dress as a little girl for you. Sometimes you have to put your hair in too, pretend to be a little
Right.
girl for them. These are the men that like young girls. So the sex work coming in handy for these type of men, keeping them from going and interfering with people's daughters, young girls. You understand? You dress as a little child for them. That's a fantasy. So it helps them in that way, instead of they going and interfere with someone's daughter.
Right.
So that is part of my contribution to what I pass through there.
Right. Thank you so much, Malika. So, Brandy.
I realize that. But let me take it off.
Right.
Hi.
Right. So, Brandy from Mayana and heard from Malika. So, what I would like you to help to explain as someone who is experienced in working with members of the community who participate in sex work. So could you share a little bit about, from your experience, how diverse is this sex industry as we know it? You know, who are the sort of people that make up sex workers? Are they just women who engage in sex with men, or tell your viewers out there what the sex industry is like in Trinidad and Tobago from the experience that you have had from working with your friends like Ayana, Malika, and all these other women.
Okay. Firstly, the sex work industry is made as a diversity of different women from different backgrounds, because we have persons who come from different Spanish-speaking countries who have been doing sex work for a period of time. We have persons from the English-speaking Caribbean who have been doing work. We have been doing with a lot of migrants and local persons over the last, like, let's say, a little over 10 years, a little over a decade, in terms of access to services and sexual and reproductive health care. We have been very fortunate. I really had the opportunity with the Family Planning Association to provide services, and also the Ministry of Health, and you know, providing services and meeting these women where they are. We have done a lot of different studies in terms of sex work, and you know, get more information in terms of where they are in terms of HIV, where they are in terms of domestic violence, where they are in terms of rape, murder, all the different forms of violations that they have been through. We've been working in terms of asking questions from the different perspectives. What is needed and what kind of support, because we will not know. We never knew what kind of support that the sex work community needs. I have other persons who would like to share from the English-speaking Caribbean. I'm not going to say where they're from. One is a MSM sex worker and the other one is trans. You all could please introduce yourselves, and then I would finish the conversation.
Hi, good night to all the members on the panel. Good night, everyone. Well, I am the MSM sex worker. So, to be honest, to be really honest with you guys on this panel tonight, being an MSM sex worker, right? Trust me, especially this pandemic, right? Remember that is a job, eh? Remember, because when I go on other jobs and doing them work, them start to discriminate, them don't want in them place, them don't want in them company, and then at the end of the day, you're just home, your bills piling up, what you have to do. You understand? You have to go out and look it. You understand? So my challenges right now, and I'm going back to, not right now, for just now, I'm going into the past, right? When I now come out as an MSM sex worker, right? And to be honest, I now finished school. I never know what to do. I couldn't get no job, nothing. It was just poverty, 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 poverty. And to be honest, I go out there at night. I message a man on my phone. Him tell me to link him XYZ, and bam bam, I link him. I went to them, and we do. Before we do the thing, the business, I ask him for my money first. You understand? And it's like, he never wanted to give me my money, then he back the gun on me and thing, and then have to give in because I don't have no weapon, nothing. You understand? That was my challenges, and that was my danger point right there. I was like, But at the end of the day, I still never give up, because at the end of the day, I have to eat a food, and my bills have to pay, so I have to go out and look it. And even now, I am still an MSM sex worker, and trust me, in this Corona time now, it is very hard. But you understand? That is my
Thanks for sharing. The other participant that we have is a trans person. Can you share your views?
Hello, good night to everyone. I am the trans on the panel tonight, and I have had my fair encounter in sex work, and there is many disadvantages and advantages in doing sex work. Sometimes it's not what you really want, but it's where society push you sometimes, even when you have a 9-to-5 and things are just backing up and things are piling up on you, then you have no other option. Sometimes you'll go to your bed and you'll pray, and then it's like you'll say, Father, I know this is not even right, because if you do in the Bible, you know, having more than one sexual partner is even wrong. And you know, there's many disease and other things that you're risking your life. And sometimes even dressing up as a trans woman, sometimes believe in their mind you are a sex toy to them. Sometimes they will want to have sex with you for free. Sometimes it's just, you know, it's just difficult sometimes. But you know, I make up my mind to reach to the point where doing sex work, it's not something I want to do the entire for the entire rest of my life, because it's very risky, right? And I have had my share encounter in my country wherein one time I went out as a sex worker to meet a man, a policeman to be exact, and things was going good. He made me a promise, and when we got into wherever we were, it was something totally different. And you know, he held me at gunpoint and he was like, you know, I can't kill you because nobody know where you are and nobody know you're by my house. And I just give in, and at the end of everything, I didn't even get $1 from that. And next time I met somebody and, you know, like they catfish and send me a wrong picture. When I reach their destination, like hours in the night, they're like, listen, when me said, you're not the person I see on the internet, so nothing can go on. Them want to stab me up, them throw me out of the car, throw me up on a bypass. Me don't even know how to reach back home. And I'm like, you know, you're risking your life for just few dollars just to better yourself sometime. And sometimes it's not even worth it. It's not even worth it. But sometimes, even during this corona, you just have to do what you got to do sometimes. Sometimes you just need the extra dollar just to survive, just to keep above the water, and just to make two ends meet. But in all of this, I just encourage us as sex worker, if that's what we have to do to make an extra dollar, let us just do it the right way, play it safe, because you know out here it's not nice these days. And in whatever you do, put God first, he will make a way. These are my few words. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for sharing. We have someone else that just messaged me and asked me if they're waiting to be to join in. I'm not sure. That's the other person's on the panel. I'm not sure what is going on.
Is that Sadia?
Yes, yeah.
She says
yeah.
she's in. She's in, but I think her mic hasn't come on as yet, but she's in.
Okay, great.
Sharon, I read Sharon comment just now. It's me.
I keep it real. I'm just.
I don't know. That is very true. That is very true what you just say. And perhaps we also can share about read it. I don't want to be reading on behalf. It's me.
Well, there are some questions I think we had. I don't know if you have any questions that we want to ask. I'm not, I don't have the questions with me, but there was a question that one of the persons, the second sex worker, I think the singer parent, there was a question around that we was talking last. I don't know if you want to share some information on it.
All right. So before we get into the questions, and so Brandy, you were giving some useful information there. That's just to reinforce what you were saying, that the sex industry in Trinidad and Tobago is not limited to sex workers being women who have sex with men, but it is more diverse than that. You have men who engage in sex with men, and then there are also men who engage in sex with women. and they're very discreet ads. Sometimes you will see even in newspapers where people engage in sex work, and they disguise it with ads such as like sensual experiences and full body massage, and so that sex work has this whole spectrum when it comes to that sort of experience in Trinidad and Tobago, and different people, depending on the resources that they have, engage in different types of entertainment and different types of sorts of pleasure for clients. So now for those people who are here tonight, Ayana, Malika, and the Trans and MSM, I have a question to you. How do you feel about those people who put out ads in the newspaper? Does that impact on the way that you are able to do your sex work? Do you feel that maybe society judges you differently from them? Maybe Malika or Ayana, would you like to answer?
On my part, yes.
Yeah.
They judge you different, and they try to look down on you. But
right.
I don't allow it to affect me in any way. Even like when I take my child to school, it have certain teachers that pass and saw me where I work. And I don't hide it from them. I dress very decently when I do anything for my child, so that there's be like, when I walk in the school, that there's a total different person. So, but they try to look down on you, and they try to make you feel a certain way. They try to, they try to put you like if you're different from the other moms in the school when you go to school. But I teach my son to always be respectful in a certain way, so they have no complaint about him. So they have no problem with me. But they try to make it look like because you're doing that type of work, you understand, you're supposed to be a certain way, you're supposed to portray a certain character. But I shouldn't. But when any way I could fall in, I am very respectable, and my work has nothing to do with my child. When I'm dealing with my child, I teach my child manners, and I attend his PTAs and such. But they try to make it look like because you're doing that, probably a different type of person. They try to just watch it a type of scorn.
Yeah. So Malika, as you're on the call with us now, I would also like to ask you if you feel comfortable answering how, what sort of experiences does your son have at school? Does he get bullied? Do people say unkind things to him?
Honestly, no, he don't get bullied, but my son has his own problem of depression through how he lose his father now. So on the whole, he's supposed to be seeing some type of therapist or something in the school, and that person hardly shows up. So on that part, they don't really bully him.
Right. Well, good. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad to hear that. There are other sex workers who may also have a very different experience, whose children are made to feel bad about themselves, especially teenagers, if people discover that their parents are involved in sex work. Now,
1 minute, please.
Go ahead.
I had to move him from 2 schools already. This is what I should have put in. I had to move him from 2, and not because of the students, because of the teachers, the way they were treating him.
Right.
I just wanted to put that in.
So the adults are more harmful.
Yes, the teachers.
Right. So you say now the adults are more harmful when it comes to dealing with children. Yes.
Yeah, they were the teachers were actually abusing him. Because of me. Because of me.
Okay.
And the work I do.
And you should always be proud that you're doing the best as a mother to take care of your child, and don't let anybody tell you differently. Now, all of you mentioned the issue of security, that you have to protect yourself as a sex worker. Now, for people engaged in other types of work, they do not have that risk. And I am sure most people who work in other areas, in other fields, have no clue of what it's like to have to be wary of your personal security every time you go out to earn an honest dollar. How do you, how do you treat with that? What is it like? Are you, when you engage with your clients, how do you assess your security situation? How do you tell yourself, well, I'm going to take a chance with this individual, or how do you make that decision?
Honestly, with the clients, well, what I do is I'm not trying to sound racial or anything. I prefer to go with the East Indian and the white guys because any problem I had out there with people of my own descent, which is the African, they always come in to abuse you or try to take back the money. But with my experience, when I choose to go with the East Indian and the white guys, I'm not sounding racial or anything, I'm telling you what I experienced, they don't take back anything, they even add to it. They offer you
Right.
more, add to it, and they become a personal client.
Okay,
So that's my
wonderful.
experience. So most of my clients, I prefer to deal with the East Indian and the white guys. Sorry. African guys are the problem out there. Those are the gunmen. I never had any problem with anybody else. I don't know for anybody else. I'm just saying what I went through.
Right.
So you choose. Even the type of car you go in, like the guys with the Almera and the Tida, with the big chain, I don't want no part of that. I don't enter that car. I don't want to see them. Even when they ask if I'm working, no, I'm not working. I'm waiting on a friend.
Everyone knows that, sir.
Right. Thank you. No Zessa, because the Zessas is the one the coming out there and sports in the big chain and the hungry, the taking back your little money that you have to go with your child, the taking it back and taking what you make before. Sorry to say.
Right. You shouldn't be sorry. Your security is very important to you. So, Ayana, what about you?
Hi.
Hi.
What was the question? Sorry,
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, Ayana. So we were talking a little bit about how you try to secure yourself and look after your personal safety when you engage with your clients. What in your case, how do you decide who you choose as a client, and how do you protect yourself? Do you have to reveal what you carry with you? I mean, how do you choose to protect yourself?
Honestly, I don't go by myself. I don't move by myself. I always move like with someone I could trust, reliable.
Right.
Mainly a man, because if I move by myself or with a woman, they feel they care about you and take your money or just rob you on the whole. And to avoid that, I have a payful system. You give me your money.
Right.
I will give the person who is with me, and then they will come. When I come back, then I will get my money. But other than that, I will let somebody know. I will take up a picture of the car, what that I'm going to do, without the client knowing. And I will send it to somebody that I consider, trustworthy. And if in case of anything happening to me, it would always have somebody that knows where I went and who exactly that I go with.
Right.
So in that case, I secure myself with my phone, and while I carry somebody else with me. But other than that, I don't move by myself because being honest, I don't trust too much people out there. Due to my experience that I have went through in the past, I don't trust too much of people. So with that, if it's one person I trust, I will go with that one person. If that one person breaks my trust, well, I guess I had a self because finding someone to trust that wouldn't go and tell your business or all day and trust everybody. Hey, that's what you're doing, what you're not doing. But honestly, it is still legal. It is still have people who in my area that is seeing me and it's like, hey, she working. And honestly, I don't care anymore. Because to be honest, they're not bringing me that dollar for me. If I'm sick, if I'm hungry, none of that is actually helping the situation. So I cannot afford to sit down and think about where everybody else would think about it. I have to think about how I think, how am I making sure and myself and become and still be strong protect myself. That's my main protection.
Right.
And also, one thing I must say, a lot of women now I had a good friend that she went with her car and never came back. Practically never came back. Yeah. When they were looking for her, no one knew where she was. So I learned to make sure I protect myself by letting someone know what I am. Because I learned from her experience.
Yeah. Okay, so Ayana, some people are saying that it's a little bit challenging to hear you. Is it possible for you to probably get maybe the mic a little closer to you so that we can hear? But for those who didn't hear Ayana, yes.
Honestly, being nice to some people and being nice to other people is the best way to be safe. That's all I know.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't walk with a weapon because I believe those things are okay. It's like if you walk with a weapon, it's like you're looking for trouble, and trouble quick to come. So
right.
I'd rather walk with a cool person than to walk with a weapon.
Right.
In other words.
Yes. So now, last night, there's one of these stories that Brandy and I managed to collect from another woman out there who participated in sex work, and her story, related her experience. She started as a 12-year-old child because of extreme poverty and hunger and had no other choice, and ended up on the streets of Port-of-Spain engaged in sex work. And her story goes on that her decision to leave sex work because of the risk that she was going through was cut short because she became a pregnant teenager, and now having to take care of a child meant that she had to stay engaged in sex work even while she was pregnant, stay engaged in sex work. So then after that pregnancy, she continued to work to maintain herself and her child. And once again, this story is one like others where no one wants to help these women. No one reaches out a helping hand or offers a solution or any sort of assistance. And in her case, she has had experiences of being, raped and left by the side of the road, and attempting to report these things to the police, and the police will not take a report. And the police officers have given excuses like if you engage in someone with sex, then it cannot be rape. So that there is this stigma and discrimination even from the very authorities that are supposed to protect every citizen in Trinidad and Tobago. So being a sex worker, on the streets, it puts these people at a greater risk than even most of us. And you would think that in the case of sexual assault and violence, that the police would take some sort of step to protect sex workers. But this does not pan through for them. So there's a lot that needs to be done. And this sort of comes down to the question that I have for you, Brandy. How about the support that women get when it comes to the emotional support that they need for dealing with things like this violence and rape? Because I can imagine that they need a lot of help because you feel emotionally strung out because the police won't help you. And then you have to also deal with the trauma of going through violence and rape. So could you share a little light on this?
All right. Wade, before I share the light, let me introduce someone who is on the call, Reds. Could you please unmute your mic, Reds, because I know you have been waiting to share your introduction and give me your story. Share some information on that, and then about you, and then I would give my feedback.
Hi, good night. Hello?
Go
Hi,
ahead,
Reds.
Reds, I'm
Go
hearing
ahead,
you.
please. Go ahead.
Hi, good night. Well, I'm calling. I'm the 12-year-old girl. Well, now I'm 31. I am calling to share about my experience that I had working out there as a young girl, you know, had nobody to turn to and end up out on the streets and end up getting pregnant. Hello?
Go ahead, Reds. We're hearing you
Right.
clearly. Go ahead.
When I first started off as a young teenager out here, I didn't had no support or anybody to guide me. I was just out in the life because my mother didn't have it easy. It was just my mom alone and 6 kids. And she tried her best, honestly, because she also used to do sex work herself, right? And she tried her best to provide for us, but she did not know where to put us and stuff. So some of us end up in homes, some of us end up out on the streets. Well, I myself, I end up out on the streets, right? And I end up getting pregnant. And at the age of 12, you don't know how to take care of yourself nor any children at that point in time, right? And I didn't have it easy out there. I had it very hard. I no longer do sex work, but I could reflect on it a little bit because I had a past with it, right? Um, how to put it? It's had a time I went to a client, and when I went with them, I was robbed. I was pregnant. I got left on the highway, naked as a bone. So I say to myself, I don't want to live like that anymore. You know, I can't go through that because it's fearful for your life at the end of the day. And for girls out there who hustling, it's real hard because I had it very hard. I just can't go to some of the girls that, was like mothers to me to show me the ropes and guide me and stuff. And today, I am no longer doing sex work, but now I try to open my little business and stuff to help myself, to further myself. So I went turn back to sex work. And I also have 5 kids. My firstborn, well, I went through a lot with her while I was out there on the streets. Now she's 17, so it's like I am a role model to her to show her that, even though it's hard, you could get through it. You don't have to turn to that life because I didn't have nobody to show me that at the point in time. Hello?
Yes.
Hi, Reds. Yes, we're hearing you. Coming
Yeah.
through loud and clear.
I have times that I went with customers and when I go to the business with them, they take out the money, ambush you. So it's a hard thing. It's a really, really hard life. I am a mother of 5 right now. I'm fighting to put everything together for my kids because I do want them to end up like me. Or, go down that generational curse, I should say. All right. I have 2 beautiful daughters and I thank God for them. But at the end of the day, I sit down with them and I tell them everything. I hide nothing from my kids. I let them know the life I live and how hard it is out there. So you wouldn't be looking for anything out there.
Okay, thank you, Reds. I still have some questions for you coming up, but I would like to share on Wade's question in terms of the psychosocial support that women actually, or sex workers. There's really, really honest, to be really honest, in the years that I've met sex workers and knowing the stuff that they've been through, there was no psychosocial component in place to deal with these women. And the only thing I could have, I mean, I have a really good relationship with many of them. What I could when I hear these stories, all I could have done was, hear what? I have some condom and some lube. At least I could try to educate or to negotiate better condom use and, you know, to empower them in some small way. Like the last time I saw Buffy on the corner, I went to give her some condoms and she said, Brandy, oh God, girl, I want to fix my passport. And the next week I heard that she was, you know, she was murdered. Now there are many different categories of sex work. One of the things that the sex work is not just on the corner. You have sex work in the brotels. We have escort services. We have persons who do massage parlor sex work. There are different persons that is Reds. Reds, I'm getting a feedback from you. Could you mute your mic?
Yeah.
Right. Now there are different categories of sex work. And street sex work is not the only. What we might know of there, the hotels where we see most of the migrant sex workers, especially the Hispanic, and most of them have complaints about being trafficked. That was not their choice of work. We have the escorts that put their ads on the paper. We have the bars, people working in bars and casinos. There's a lot of sex work happening in these activities and spaces. There are dancers who also are sex workers. Well, the pornographic people who doing porn, they are sex workers. So the sex work is not just on the corner. There's a lot of things going on transactional with husbands and wives also. Some of the wives, if they don't have sex with their husband, they don't come home with the money. That is another thing that they have to consider. And Trinidad and Tobago don't talk about that. We know a lot of men that coming home with the money and because their wife vexed with them, or she ain't talking to me, or something. We know all about that. So again, we have to understand and, you know, share these experiences. And I think this is one of the platforms I wanted to have introduce sex work to our community as a marginalized and vulnerable group, because a lot of us don't know what these women go through. A lot of us see these women in the night and, you know, all on the avenue, all downtown, go in different spaces, go to the casino, go to different bars. And these women have needs, they come from different spaces. I did, you know, if I have to be a sex worker, I would really love it. I wish I had the energy and the time to do it all the time, like, you know, real, because I want to collect money and I want to pay my price and collect my thing and do my, I like that kind of control. But there are other things that comes, ramifications that comes behind being a sex worker. And I think we need to understand the psychosocial component that is, you know, there, that is not existing, that doesn't exist. And also sex workers, in the years I have known sex workers in the last decade, I have seen increased growth of protection for health. They are very conscious of their health. These are the women that first thing as I say, hey, we have some HIV test coming up, yeah? You will see first 5, 6 people in the line are sex workers. You wouldn't see the regular women coming out. You will see when you're watching the line, majority of the persons in the line are sex workers. And I have realized that they're doing this with the consciousness that, hey, I know I could get sick, and I know what my risk are, I know the risk that I'm taking, and I understand it, and I'm doing my best to make sure that this doesn't happen. Can I hear from the 2 migrants, the MSM and trans persons on this, in terms of risk? Could you share any information on that for the MSM and the trans woman?
Representing the trans here. in terms of risk, I always tell myself once I am going out there to do any sexual transaction, the first thing I just grab for is my lube or my condom, because as I said before, you don't know who have what, and the HIV status in the Caribbean is very high. The first thing you have to do is protect yourself, and it's very risky. And I wanted to said something earlier when that Sharon had said, but I had put up my hand, but I'm going to talk about it now. Wherein I am saying where there's no security when it comes on to sex worker, because I have had my own personal experience wherein when I now moved to this country, sorry for the loud noise passing. I have had my fear experience wherein when I came here to a man, because I tell myself I become an international sex worker now. So, you're flying out to your country, going to a next country to meet a man, or a man maybe buying a plane ticket for you to come there. And I have had my experience. The first time I had my experience in the Cayman Islands, wherein I flew to a man in the country, and to be honest, I didn't like him. Sometimes you go with these men, you don't like them, you just like the money. And sometimes your vagina will not even open for them. You don't feel for them. And it's like once they realize that, they become violent to you because they believe that they're dominant and you're supposed to be the submissive one to them. And I remember one night, he realized I was not into him because he's saying, I fly you here, you should be mine, and I'm spending on you. Like, I should become your dolly, as I said, because they want you dress up, put on makeup, and be their little dolly in the house. You can't talk to nobody else. And the man drive me away, and he say, imagine I take you all the way from where you're coming from, and you're coming, you don't want me, I feel like I'm going to kill it. I've had so many encounter with it. And when I come back here now to Trinidad, and I encounter with the person I came to, when I call the police, the police asked me, can I see your passport? Can I see your time in your book? And how long have you met this person? Where did you meet this person? And I must say, before I finish my story, we are to be very careful when it comes on to meeting person on social media for sex work, because it is very detrimental. It can be very detrimental. And the police asked me, how long you meet this person? I say, few months going into some year, the police was like, are you out of your mind to leave your country to come and meet a man so far? It's very dangerous. And that's all they did. They didn't ask me where I'm going next, because I had my luggage there beside me. I didn't know nobody. I don't know nobody in the country. You meet this man on the internet and they tell you to come to the country, and you end up being on the road. They take all the little change you have. You don't know your next move as a sex worker. You have to think. You understand? So I would encourage anybody as a trans woman, be very careful. A lot of trans have lost their life in this sex work. And that's one of the biggest disadvantage, because we do not have proper security. And one of my method of protecting myself when it comes on to going out as a sex worker, I just have somebody I can confide in and say, here what, girl, I going with so and so. See the picture of so and so. You know this person, you know nothing about him. Give me a little rundown on this man. You understand? I don't like to just go and meet a man and don't know nothing about them to endanger my life. So far, almost 30, and I've come this far by faith, and faith keeping me on. And it's not something I want to continue living. As I say, this is just a stepping stone. Sex work can just be a stepping stone. Once you have ambition, sex work can be a stepping stone for a trans to better themselves and become the woman they want, if they have the intention and the destiny and the dream to go for it. These are my few words.
Okay. So now there are a couple of questions that have been posted by some members of the panel and viewers, and there's one that then is being asked of those persons who are sex workers tonight with us, and they would like to know, as a sex worker, how does it affect your personal relationship with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your spouse? So does anyone want to answer? Reds, Malika, Ayana.
Malika
No,
here.
honestly, Oh God. What are we
Go ahead,
cheering at
Ayana.
the
I'll
same
speak after
time?
you.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I would have to speak now because my battery is like on 1%. Anyway, my Mister has a problem about it, but honestly, he understands what my whole situation is. I don't know why am I doing it. So we have a mutual understanding, and actually, he is the person that is be out there with me, making sure that I am okay and nothing is wrong with me. He may not like it, but he just wants to make sure I'm okay. So that's how he deals with it.
Thanks, Ayana. Malika?
Once I'm doing,
Before Malika started talk, if I cut off, my battery died. I apologize, everyone. I really apologize.
Okay, Ayana.
Okay, Yana, you take care. All the best.
Can I say something?
Sure, go ahead. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Yes. To me,
Malika, you hold on. Go ahead.
it does affect your personal relationship. From my experience, wherein if I sincerely love my boyfriend and he sincerely loves me, and I am going out there to sleep with somebody else for a benefit. Yes, it is benefiting both of us, but if you sincerely love somebody, your body, your heart, so you will feel like something is tearing apart. I remember one time my boyfriend, because to be honest, I love the zester man. Them sorry, I love the rough guys. So I remember this guy tracking my boyfriend, and I wanted some money. He wanted money too, and I say, here, what you can go with. Do what you have to do. And to be honest, I said it with a heavy heart because can't stand to see that happen. And when he went into the room, the guy came out and he said to me, your boyfriend really love you because I know him totally and stand up. And to me, if you love your boyfriend and he love you, you will not be happy to seeing both party engaging in sexual activities for cash. But you just have to do what you have to do for make ends meet sometime. And sometimes you come home, you're tired, you don't have no time for sex your boyfriend because you may break 3-4 times already. And so it does really affect your relationship. It may cause a relationship to crash sometime. Those are my few words.
Right. Malika?
yes, on my part, once I am going and doing that work, I just can't have nobody. Once because it is be extremely jealous and it just cause problems. So once I out there, I am by myself. I don't have nobody because it does cause problems.
Right.
So once I on that, I cannot have a personal partner.
Okay.
Anytime you see me have a personal partner, it's because I'm not on that. So with me, I cannot have somebody and come home to them and sleep next to them after I do that. For me, I don't feel good doing it, and me and the person it just end up in problems. So I rather be alone while I do that. For
Right.
me.
Okay. So, Reds, um, what about you? How has, being a sex worker affected your personal relationship? And there's also a question for you, Reds, from another person on the chat, and they would like to know what type of support do you need to ensure that your children have other options aside from entering sex work?
Well, for me, when I'm doing that, I don't, as Malika say, I don't have a partner because nobody just wants to go through that, and it doesn't have a trust in the relationship. So I don't put myself through that when I am with someone. And in terms of my kids right now, they need help in terms of education and things to go back out to school and stuff like that. As a mother, a single parent, I have tried my best and I'm still trying. I'm not giving up. As I said, I opened my little small business that I wouldn't have to go back out here. Right? So my little shop right now is my support. It's hard, to try to make the turnovers and to make the business go and to make the kids go to school. But I try my best. So for me,
Yeah.
my kids just need things for school and, things like that. I'll try my best with everything.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, great. Great.
So, Brandy,
mhm.
I don't want our viewers to feel that we are only highlighting the challenging things about sex work. Now, sex work has been around, as our viewers know, it's known as the oldest profession. It provides an essential services for everyone in society, whether we like to admit it or not. We are all attracted to sex. We participate in sex. We look at sex in forms of pornography. We even see sex in our entertainment on television, in the movies. So sex is a very real but taboo part of our lives. Um, so the work that sex workers do is a very positive one in society too as well, because they deliver a service that people require, men and women, and also people who do not identify with any gender. And there are many different reasons why people seek sex from sex workers. So could you talk a little bit about that? Because in Trinidad and Tobago, there isn't any system set up to ensure that sex workers can ply their trade legally like other workers. So, for example, they're not included or covered under labor laws,
No.
and there isn't any sort of protection that helps sex workers to, let's say, for example, like in Europe, form a union and have, standards to protect them and to ensure that they're not the property of someone who's forcing them to work on their behalf, and so that, or to even establish some fair wage level for sex workers. So what about that? Share your opinions about that, and what do you think is needed to ensure that these things happen here in Trinidad and Tobago?
Okay, first I would like to say that I'm also on the board for the Caribbean Sex Workers Coalition. It's a regional body that actually has the voice for sex workers throughout the region, not just in Trinidad and Tobago here. And we partner with, these international bodies, or these bodies that fight for decriminalization of sex work, and to also support sex workers in different ways to engage with them, to build their capacity, the community's capacity to be not just a sex worker, but for Reds have engaged in a business and could also identify, well, I'm a past sex worker. This is what we want to do in terms of the coalition and the sex workers coalition in Trinidad here. We want to make sure that we reach out to these women, we understand what their needs are, and not because, judging from in the years that I've been working with sex workers, we always see them and meet them from time to time, and times changes and situation changes, and money still is not enough. It is actually never enough. The kids grow older, everything happens, money still is not enough. So with being a part of the coalition and being a part of the work that we do with sex workers, because my thing is to empower and to build the capacity and to also educate them about their health, empower them more about their concerns, because they're most at risk. And in going into access services, there's no question, nobody asks you, so how many partners have you had? Or, when they go for a test, there's no question about, for population that are most at risk. So with this, bearing all this in mind, we try to, build around what their needs are and how we could best empower them, and also to build a capacity to be different persons other than sex workers. We're not saying sex work is not bad. Sex work is work, but you have an option and a choice. If I choose to do sex work, I do sex work. But it must not be limited to only sex work. That is what we're trying to do, build around the diversity of sex work and to build the capacity and, to empower them in different spaces, because most of these women, they have different skill sets that, you know, have not been discussed, have not been used, because it's easier to do sex work than anything else, because that's what, you know, you was introduced to, or you heard about. So having conversation, we understand, some of them want to go back to school, some of them want to go and do a course. You know, I could open a business, I could do eyelashes, I could do nails, I could do this. But who is going to, how am I, you know, their thing is the support. No support mechanisms is in place for women, you know, and that, I think, is the disconnection here. That is why we have these NGOs all over the region. It's all about building women's capacity, especially sex workers, because very marginalized and very vulnerable, and comes with being marginalized and vulnerable, and from broken spaces. So this is why we want to reach out to them and work with them to find out what could be best facilitate and groom you to be where you want to be.
Sure. So thank you, Brandy. And Sharon would like to make a contribution. So, but before Sharon, before you come on, I just want to ask Malika and Reds, and also maybe you, Sharon, when you come on, do you think those other NGOs in Trinidad and Tobago that advocate for and support women's rights, should they be representing for the equal treatment of sex workers in the work industry? So, for example, should they also join advocacy and promote a formalized sex work industry in Trinidad and Tobago? Malika, Reds first.
Hi, and hello?
Yes, hi, Reds, go ahead.
Yeah, I find they should advocate for sex workers because we are humans too, like everybody else, and we need the support at the end of the day. So I believe they should. Hello?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Reds. Malika, what do you think?
I think they should, but I don't see it happening. I've tried going for little loans to open business and to try other little stuff, and certain people that know your face from certain areas, they look down on you. So that's part of what's going on. As I say, they look down on you. But we need a lot of support.
Wonderful. Thank you, Malika. So Sharon, please take the floor. It's yours. Welcome, everyone. This is Sharon.
Hi, good night, everybody.
Hi, Sharon. Good night.
The discussion. I just wanted to just interject, having worked with sex workers and been to sessions and meetings with sex workers, the whole, we have this impression because there's a misconception that sex work is this really bad thing, that women need to be saved from sex work. And what we want to do is save women and have them do something else. And the feedback that I used to so often hear was, you want me to give up a job in which I am making a decent income, because it's income generation, to go and learn to sew buttons on a shirt or some other task which will not even allow me to exist at a subsistence level. And that's what we used to hear a lot from the feminists and the organizations who were so into trying to save people. You're trying to save people, but put them into a situation that will leave them financially worse than sex work. So if the goal is to liberate people from sex work, You have to build people's capacity to generate income that is on the same level or even more, because they have families to support, you know, and sex work is an option that is usually one of the last options, but it may be the only viable option given the situations that women and men find themselves in. So and we love to focus on the sex work, and you see I getting passionate, which is why I don't like to talk about this too much. We like to focus on the sex work, and we don't focus on the Johns, on the people who create a whole lot of harm because you're coming for the pussy, you don't want to pay, you know what I'm saying? And we don't regulate that side of the industry. We don't talk about that side, but we want to focus on the people who are trying to make a living, you know? And as Brandy and other people talked about, where is the psychosocial support? How are we addressing the needs of these women and men? Anyway, I'm going to get quiet again, sorry.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So, you know, it's 9:39. I don't want us to go beyond our 10 o'clock deadline, but I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So, you know, what's required then for those sex workers who choose to stay in the sex industry? What's required to ensure that we protect the rights of sex workers legislatively? And, you know, it's open here now for the panel to make that discussion, including the sex workers here. What do you need to see by way of legal protections? And also, you know, should we in Trinidad and Tobago, like other countries, have a formal, for want of a better word, red light district or industry where women and men who are interested in having a career, a legitimate career as a sex worker, be registered and receive, you know, all of the state support services, medical care, insurance, you know, all of the things that regular workers who are in the labor industry in Trinidad and Tobago receive. What do you think we need to have that happen? So I want to throw that to Rudy, who's been very quiet tonight. Rudy is our in-house attorney. Maybe he can give us a little bit about, explain a little bit about the legal system in Trinidad and Tobago and what is required there, Rudy.
So it's very interesting, actually, that I had a conversation with a battery of attorneys just yesterday about some of these overarching issues. Let me set some context. People should understand that we inherited, and sometimes that's too passive. We chose as a country when we became independent to maintain practically all of the colonial laws that still persist today. Those laws are protected by something called the Savings Law Clause, which means that unless they are actually materially changed or amended or replaced, they hold. And it's very difficult for a court of law to operate in a manner that is in contradiction to those laws. And why I say that is that we obviously have laws that deal with things like solicitation and loitering, and laws that provided care for binary genders. It's very interesting that back then in the, you know, in the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, and then after 1962, there are laws that are actually written with the words man and woman. Mm-hmm. And in contemporary times, those laws have been used, of course, to rob us of our own protections, especially those of us that do not identify in one of those binary terms. Now, the Trinidad and Tobago, like other countries, maintains those laws that have been used to prosecute persons who engage in sex work in the streets and who may have been found to be in brothels or hotel rooms, etc., when those spaces are used for transactional sex. What is interesting, and Brandy touched on it, is that there are many other forms, and I think some other person mentioned it on the chat. There are many other forms of sex that are all equally transactional in nature, but you do not see the laws being applied in those instances. And so, one, that in itself is a contradiction. And in law, it is sometimes easier to break a law or to find, when you find a contradiction in how laws are applied, there are things in laws called, there's a principle in law called equity. And one of the maxims of equity calls for law to be applied consistently and universally. And so that could be one point of contention where a case could be made before a court that this law is nonsensical in nature because it is only being used on certain groups or persons and it is not being applied elsewhere in people's lives. And again, you look at the examples of the quote unquote personal ads in the newspapers. I mean, if one, and again, I want to make it clear, I am not necessarily advocating that we prosecute sex workers at all, but I'm building the argument that if you want to prosecute them in the streets, then you should prosecute them on
across the floor,
across the board. So that is one line of attack. Of course, the second line of attack is to get legislators. Those are the members of parliament and then the senators to bring laws or to advocate for changes to these laws and or the creation of laws that would allow for protections in certain instances, etc. I heard on the radio this morning or the day before a potential candidate speaking about abortion, for example. And she went so far as to say that she would be willing to consider supporting the options for an abortion in certain circumstances. So if you can't get the full protections or you can't get complete amendments, and I hate this option, but it is one, of course. You can start with some low-hanging fruit, and I guess Brandy mentioned that as well, or others on the discussion, like, for example, healthcare. There could be regulations, for example, put in place that prevent health institutions, especially public health institutions, from discriminating people based on gender identity. So that's a second and a subsection of a second option. And then thirdly, of course, you can actually, and I'm using this word deliberately, you can actually subvert the law. And we've seen this in the area of Equal Opportunity Act protections, for example. So while the national law will not provide a protection, there are many companies, mine, for example, and others that I've worked for, that provide in their HR policies for protections for persons of different gender identities, during transition periods, sexual orientation, etc.
You've got mail.
And you don't need national laws sometimes to provide protections in other regards. So one of the things that we can do while we're waiting for the courts or the legislators to change the laws is that we can actually activate and mobilize and get the private sector and maybe even some places in the public sector to implement policies and protections on their own, in their own right. And that might open up access for different protections and different opportunities for our sex workers, should they choose. And I know some, we always have this qualification, should they choose to want to have a different career path. And again, as Sharon pointed out, it is not that we are saying at all that, you know, people should stop this. But what we want is for people to be protected, to have the same access to rights and healthcare and everything else that others do, other types of workers do. And if they wish to move into a different career path, then there are options for them to do that as well. And I think that is one of the things that we can look at, Brandy, under the Sasha Fierce Memorial Fund. And I know you have other things that you want to do with it as well, that you've made clear on other calls. But that is the sticky thing about laws, is that unless you get someone to petition or to place the law in the parliament, or if you have the resources to go to court, laws are things that are very sticky, and they even if they're not being enforced, they are on the books. And I mean, we talked about, for example, the Sexual Offences Act, which Jason had repealed in a matter of speaking through his case, and then recently the Domestic Violence Act, and we saw what happened there in the Senate. So there are options. They are not easy options. And I do believe that, especially in an election year and even after the election is done, we need to get a little bit more serious as a community and with our allies. And, you know, papers and reports and academic journals and so on and so forth are important, and they document things. But it really requires much more than that to get laws changed, especially these type of troublesome laws that people still have moralistic perspectives about. Sometimes laws that don't really have a moral component, and you all know what I mean when I say that. You find those laws are easier to change.
Yes.
But when there's you know, religious ramifications and moralistic perspectives on these things, they tend to stick around and you know, really belabor the point that not everyone in society is equal and not everyone enjoys the same equity. So that would be my contribution on that point.
Thank you. So Brandy, I want to also raise a question to you with regard to some of the protections that sex workers can access now. In some of the work that you are doing, there is a paralegal attached to some of your caseworkers. So let us say, for example, if one of the sex workers who is connected to you, and I'm sure that you'd welcome other sex workers to keep in touch with you, so that they can work together as a network and we can support each other. How, you know, what kind of assistance do you think this paralegal can provide to sex workers right now? Let's say, for example, they end up in a hospital for a situation of violence from a customer, and then have to go to the police station. How can that paralegal help?
Well, at the moment, we have, once we documenting, and we have a pro bono lawyers to work with the members who we document from. Once it's a matter that they need legal representation, there's a panel of pro bono lawyers that CVC, that's the Caribbean Vulnerable Communities Coalition, they actually pay and ask people to support persons or victims of human rights abuse and all of that, because that's what the paralegal does. They document these violations, and if it reached a case that we have to go to court, yes, the we have pro bono lawyers to facilitate. So far, so good. We have not had. Guyana has documented some in the past where they had to get lawyers to go to court with some of the sex workers and some of the trans women. I think the level of violence is a lot higher in Ghana compared to Trinidad, and there's a lot more sex work and sex workers in Ghana compared to Trinidad. I don't know how that happens, but that's the reality of it. We see we've been working over the years. One of the things that I try to always get the girls and them to get is sexual reproductive health and to be tested for HIV. And I think because it's a community that does not really talk much, and there's nowhere that you could go and somebody will ask you, or a nurse or a doctor will ask you if you have multiple partners or if you sleep with more than one person, because there are different ways to find out if if a person is a sex worker and just say, are you a sex worker? You know, the questions that surrounds that they don't ask these people at all. And one of the things that we've seen, what I'm seeing like right now, in certain communities, not just not for females, but not the heterosex, not the sex workers community, but the heterosexual community. The females and males are coming with a lot of syphilis. The cases on syphilis has increased like by 100%. And we don't know how this is happening, but I have a fair idea because being in the industry for so long, I know that there's a lot of unprotected sex going on, and seeing that the education on HIV medication has been so good, and you know we don't have deaths and all of that anymore. But there's a disconnection with the conversation of being reinfected. That is not happening. There's a lot of persons still having unprotected sex, and there's an increase in syphilis, so we know for sure that unprotected sex is going on, and not so much HIV, but you know, a lot of people is actually suppressed so that they're not really spreading the virus as 10, 15, 20 years ago. So, but still, we need to do a lot more. We need to have this kind of conversation, and this is why we have to stick with the community, because sex work ain't going nowhere. It's staying righty. So we need to educate them.
Okay, Brandy, thank you. So now, one of the things that we also need to do as a community, and when I say community, not just the TLGBTQ community, but the general population of Trinidad and Tobago, is that we need to treat sex workers with the dignity that they deserve. So a sex worker is not a secondary citizen or a secondary individual living in this country. They are human beings just like we are, and they've said it themselves that they are human beings. And also, we have to respect the fact that sex workers provide a service to a very legitimate industry that is here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I would go so far as to say maybe we should try to get people who support the sex industry, who are on the other side of transactional sex, to become supporters for legitimizing the sex industry, because they are the beneficiaries. Yes. So I think this needs a lot more dialogue, and I hope that this just begins to open the doors for dialogue. And I think that in the future, people like Reds and Malika and Ayana and the trans worker and the MSM should be more comfortable to come out and have discussions where they become owners of their own legitimate transactional sex industry, for example, sex business. so that they have a fair wage, they feel protected, they don't feel harassed, and they can conduct business in a very legitimate manner in safe spaces and also have all of the health benefits. And I keep going back to the benefits that regular workers in Trinidad and Tobago have. Because everyone else who is not involved in sex work in Trinidad and Tobago have some sort of benefit. Even migrant workers have who are engaged in secondary employment in Trinidad and Tobago have some sort of benefits that people who are involved in transactional sex may not have.
Mhm.
So
may
I would
jump
like
in?
yes,
One
go
quick
ahead.
thing on that.
Yes.
It's a sort of an interesting point. I had done some inquiring once at the NIB office. The thing about NIB is that the way they are set up, they don't actually deny payments based on what you're doing. So in a strange way, I mean, this may sound a bit facetious, but we're discussing options, right? What I'm getting at is somebody could legitimately register a business like Winky Wade's, you know, and you register your business and you then register with NIB, and the NIB does not actually ask you for proof of what you do. They simply receive money for national insurance, and of course PAYE goes to the Board of Inland Revenue. But to my mind, if we are entrepreneurial, we could very well find ways to access benefits for people. Because once you have that card on file that shows you made X amount of payments or you pay into NIS, you will, and once they've taken your money, they will have to pay you out your benefits. So these are things that sometimes we need to sit and look at and consider how we can actually, as citizens, as you know, people who are protected by the rights that are afforded to everyone only by the fact that you're born here, that you are a citizen and nothing else, not your gender, not your ethnicity, so just the fact you're born in this country. So let's talk some more. Let's see, Brani. Maybe we can, who knows? We can.
Yeah, I think really that's a really great idea because, yeah, I know some of them would be interested in doing that because I mean that's a long-term benefit, and that could help them somewhere at some point.
So before we close off, Reds and Malika, tell us, we are here. One of the reasons that we are here is because we're here to listen. We want to know what needs you have. How can we help you as a community? How can we support you? What do you think we can do? If you tell us what your needs are, maybe we can see what options among ourselves we can present.
Okay, well, to begin with, I went and I registered a business. And from there, after I registered the business, trying to get a loan to develop and open the business, that was it. I couldn't go no further because I wasn't getting help with the loan. So I have a registered business and that is it. It's on pause. I can't do anything else. Because when they want the loan, when you tell them, when they ask you what line of work you're doing, that is it there. I have to tell them what you're doing. Even when you go to open a bank account, you have to put false information to get it open. You cannot tell them that because they don't want it. They're not opening it for you. You have to lie to them.
Right.
Rance, any comment from you, Rance?
Hi. Well, as Monica said, I don't have a registered business because I have never registered my business. I just open up a shop and from there start the sell. Right? So that was just my idea. But for me, she say I could do with the help of getting my business registered. And
Mhm.
also at the moment I am living in a small little board house that not in good condition. I had a fire the other day. And I didn't get no help from self-help. I'm still waiting on that. So if I could get a little assistance to make my children comfortable because at the moment they are not. It's like everybody pile up on everybody. So, if I could get help to register my business, maybe to further myself with that and, to get myself off the road and stuff like that, that would be good for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks
So
for
Red,
sharing.
Hello?
yes, Red. So there is have you heard of this organization known as Habitat for Humanity, Trinidad and Tobago? Habitat for Humanity.
You,
So what they do is that if you have a space that you are living in and you need assistance, so you had a little recent fire, right? Habitat for
yeah.
Humanity is an NGO that will for free provide some assistance with improving the conditions that you live in. So please stay in touch with Brandy and I will
Hmm.
get that information across to her for you so that you can reach out to them. Habitat for Humanity is supposed to be one of those organizations that does not ask you anything about your personal life. So the fact is that you have a need, and that's what they do as an organization is to assist people to improve their homes and their living conditions.
Okay, thank you
Uh,
very much.
You're
on my
absolutely
part,
welcome. Yes.
excuse on my part, anywhere that does give loans that don't ask what job you're doing and don't have no problem with the job you're doing and how you're paying it back.
So I feel,
No man
as
like
Rudy
that.
was saying, as
Yes.
Rudy was saying,
See?
it's just the very same way that there are people who are finding these loopholes in the newspapers, and they advertise these transactional businesses, but it's sensual massages or whatever else. So say holistic healing, say you provide physical therapy. Um, I'm
Yeah,
not
you
telling
could
you,
say that.
but there are realities, and that those are the sort of things that, as a transactional sex worker, those are the things that you do. You provide emotional support for your clients. You are a source of therapy. You're a source of entertainment. So it's really to sort of use the way that you express it, and maybe that's how we can probably help you too as well. You and the others, we can help
That's a
you
good
to
idea.
legitimize what you do, and those of us who maybe a little bit better with the gift of gab and can help you word what you do so that it describes your business,
Uh-huh.
so that you're not seen um, as for want of a better word, one of those untouchable street workers, but then it puts you in a category equal to the people in the newspapers who are doing their stuff.
Okay.
So once again, please stay with Brandy, and I'm challenging everyone who's in this panel tonight to
Hmm.
volunteer to help do that, to come out and share whatever little education we have, knowledge we have, skills we have, to help people like you and Reds and Ayana to legitimize yourself because you're not doing anything wrong.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right. So as we're rounding up tonight, we would like to remind those viewers out there too as well that Brandy, together with the PrideTT, launched a fund called the Sasha Fierce Fund. Sasha Fierce was also a transactional sex worker who was transgender, and unfortunately, as most of us know and remember Sasha Fierce very fondly, she was murdered on the Nelson Mandela Park. But because of the kind of person Sasha Fierce was, and her ambitions to be to always improve herself and make her life better, and she wanted to advance and develop her skills and everything that she did. And unfortunately, because her life was cut short, she wasn't able to do that. And Sasha Fierce was a friend to the community and a friend to all of the transactional sex workers and transgender women and members of the TLGBTQ community whenever she met them. Brandy and PrideTT, well, the Trinidad and Tobago Trans Coalition and PrideTT jointly launched the Sasha Fierce Fund, and that fund is to help transgender persons to develop their skills to help them elevate themselves. So we are encouraging everyone out there, if you can, how you can, please contribute to this fund. It helps to improve the lives of people out there. And as Brandy would let you know in the days and weeks to come, that Sasha Fierce Fund is going to be big, a part of a bigger project that's going to reach more than just transgender people, but would try to reach out to also the sex workers who are friends of our communities and who support us emotionally and in every other way too as well. So please give generously to that fund. Please also give generously to PrideTT. There's a motorcade that's coming up in a few days as we take onto the streets to head around Trinidad and Tobago to close off Pride Month. Paying the bills for these things is not easy. So for all of you out there who have not yet made your donation, or if you found a little extra kakada while they were paying out the draw, send some for Red, send some for Malika, and send some for PrideTT, please.
And
You can
Brandy.
contact Brandy there and Brandy.
I'm not hearing you, Wade. Wade?
Yes.
Right, hearing you now.
Yes. So I'm handing it over to you and Rudolph to say goodbye. So you didn't hear anything that I just said.
No, we didn't hear anything just now.
Okay,
I heard you say up to give some money to support and
Yeah.
I heard up to there.
Okay, I'm sorry. Apparently my phone, someone's trying to call me. One of my clients trying to call me. So, thanks everybody once again. Thank you so much, Red. Thank you, Malika. Thanks Ayana and all of our viewers out there.
Yay, thank you very much.
I would like very much, as I said, to remind you all to continue to support. And if any one of you would like to make a contribution to help Reds and Malika and Ayana and the others, reach out to Brandy directly through Trans Coalition Trinidad and Tobago. And those of you who want to make donations to PrideTT's motorcade coming up, please reach out to PrideTT to social media, through their email address, through the phone numbers, or call Rudy or Kennedy or Eva or Faye. And I hand it over now to Rudy and to Brandy to say their goodbyes to as well.
Okay. I will leave Rudy to save the best for last. So, I really thank the panelists tonight and all our listeners. Sharon, thank you. Thank you for being Sharon. Not Sharon Motley, Sharon, who doesn't be afraid to see anything, who has come a long way in support, with sex workers. The migrants panelists we had, thank you all for everything. And our female sex workers, I know it has been a lot for you all to talk about. But I want to have you all remember, and also Yana, that it's sometimes for people to understand where you're coming from and where you are and who you are. Then you need to, address and talk to tell people about you. I would know who you are. And the years that I've worked with you all, I think, oh wow, you all are really great people. And I really want to say thank you also doing this. Mrs. Martinez was supposed to have been on the call. She wanted to say a little bit of on behalf of family planning also, because I know the Family Planning Association have been doing a lot for sex workers over the years, over the last decade. So some things is going to happen in terms of services. I think we are planning some free testing next month, so get your crew together. And it is going to be in San Fernando, Shogunas, Port of Spain, and also Tobago. I would let you all know so we could have some information in terms of support for testing, because this is a question you all always ask. So we're trying to see if we could get that done. Thank you all again, and Rudy now.
Thank you, Brandy, and also thank you to everyone who was so brave and honest to come onto this call tonight. Some of us don't even feel that level of courage to share even simpler things about ourselves. And for what it is worth, your contributions will educate people. You have said inconvenient truths that those with privilege and those who don't like to be honest, there's a lot of hypocrisy around some of these issues. You know, those inconvenient truths will make all of us think again, and it encourages some of us, or I should say it reinforces to some of us why we have to continue to do the work that we do. And all I could end with is a quote from one of my favorite books, which deals with this topic actually. It's called Memoirs of a Geisha. And if anyone has heard of it, they may know the movie, but they should look at it, and they should probably read the book as well. And in that novel, it is said that adversity is like a strong wind. I don't mean it just that it holds us back from places we might otherwise go. It also tears away from us all but the things that cannot be torn, so that afterward we see ourselves as we really are and not merely as we might like to be. And I share that with you all to say this. Sometimes those of us that go through the worst in life and survive it, they are more honest about who they are and know more of their truth than those of us that don't face that level of adversity. And I think we all need to check our damn selves, because if other people could be as honest and as straightforward as these persons were tonight, then the rest of us have no blasted excuse. So on that note, happy Pride, and may we continue to work with each other to face adversity.
Happy Pride, everyone.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Take care, everyone. Be
Rudy.
safe.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Happy Pride tonight.
Bye.